We are wrestling. We are wrestling podcast.
They give a shout out to We Are Wrestling on YouTube.
You're watching We Are Wrestling.
I'm the host with the most.
You are by far the least intelligent.
What's going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. 1/3 of We Are Wrestling.
What's going on? We are Wrestling Maniacs Worldwide. Ben here, the third of the talk show.
We Are Wrestling Podcast.
Make sure to subscribe, baby.
We are wrestling.
What is up? We are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide. I'm the host with the most, Mr. We Are Wrestling himself, the best one, Donnie, here with.
What is going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. 1/3 of We Are Wrestling. Me and Donnie riding solo this week, and I'm sweating like a pig, man. It's hot today. The summer is being very ruthless, man. But what's going on?
Yeah, it's pretty ruthless over here in the New England area. And then every Saturday, it seems to rain.
I know, man. It just seems it's like a never-ending cycle, you know?
It's a never-ending cycle here in New England. One day it's snowing, another day it's raining, it's sunny. But before we dive into the topics for this week's episode of We Are Wrestling 64, if you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already and you're listening to the podcast, give us a 5-star review. Not only a review, but a best review. And, of course, download the episode. But if you're watching this week's episode of the podcast, if you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, and you're not a part of the thousands of subscribers, we recommend you to hit that subscribe button now, turn on the post notifications. Videos be coming out of nowhere like an RKO. And, of course, you already know the grind is real.
Yeah, man. The grind is definitely real. Well, I can't believe we already made it up to 64 episodes. We would have been way past that, but, last year, we sort of had to take, a couple weeks off, whatever, this and that. Some things happened. But, 64 episodes of the podcast, bro. It's nuts.
Absolutely nuts. And this week, we've had some pretty awesome content come out on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel. We had the last episode of Old School versus New School with myself and Phil. We dived into the biggest what-ifs in pro wrestling. Definitely a very interesting, discussion. Recommend you guys to go check that out if you haven't already. And we even have a new wrestling vlog coming out next week while I'm away on vacation to Cape Cod with the fiance. We have a Lucha Mania Northeast Wrestling vlog where I got the opportunity for the first time ever to watch Vikingo wrestle, which was such a great vlog, great experience.
I'm looking forward to that. By the way, I do want to let everybody know, man. The anticipation for these vlogs is real, and I do got to be honest with you guys, man. Donnie doesn't show me and Ben shit until the actual video comes out. So we don't even know what's in the video and the vlog that's coming out next week. So just like you, I'm excited to see it personally.
Oh, yeah, we got to drop. We got to make it interesting. And also later on next week, we will be having the Blitzkrieg Luau vlog coming out as well. And before I record this, before I'm going to the wrestling show, yeah, I fucking botched that one. Shit.
This is like Money in the Bank all over again, bro. Just botch after botch after botch.
Now that I'm keeping in there. But yeah, no, with Blitzkrieg Luau, I'm going to be going to it on Friday. We're recording this on a Wednesday, and I'm very excited. These are always my favorite Blitzkrieg shows, and you already know we're going to be vlogging it. We're going to be front row. Danny, unfortunately, can't make it. It's his wife's birthday, but I'll be there with the We Are Wrestling extras and my fiance as well, and it's going to be a great time. So that vlog should hopefully be coming out sometime next week.
Yeah, bro. Like, it's my wife's birthday on Friday, whatever. So I've been, I took a little bit of a break from streaming this week, except for Dynamite on Wednesday. So I won't be streaming again until the day actually this episode comes out. I'll be live tonight for Collision. So
Saturday,
it's been,
Saturday.
bro, I really like that song,
It
man.
has grown on me. I will give you that.
It definitely has grown on me. But I want to take some time off for 4th of July and, just spend time with the family or whatever and, sort of set aside work. I have done a lot of pre-recorded videos. That's my new thing I like doing, pre-recorded videos for TikTok and stuff like that. So if you guys want to go to my TikTok and check those out, man, search up my name. I surpassed 1,000 followers. I'm able to stream now.
Woo! Let's go.
It's going to make the watch-alongs for when we're at your house for SummerSlam even more interesting.
Absolutely. And this week has been a very busy week as well with the 4th of July. I've been busy as well this week. Usually I do my Wednesday night Dynamite reactions on Wednesdays, but I got to see, my beautiful niece for the first time in about 4 years because she lives, away from here, and she came down. And of course, I had to spend some time with the family, had a great time. And yeah, I'm going to be going on vacation next week, but we do have, videos lined up. But the reactions, there's not going to be really anything coming up next week unless it's, something crazy to where Danny, lets me know in the chat, Donnie, you need to react to this one thing, and I'll do it, through my mobile phone.
But here, I think a way for me to combat that, and because sometimes when you do want to go on vacation or whatever, the channel, because there's so much content usually every week with your reactions and stuff like that, the channel sort of runs dry whenever you go on vacation. So I think to combat that, starting Monday night for Monday Night Raw, I do believe I'm going to be all week. WWE Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, Collision. I do believe I'm going to be dual streaming on the We Are Wrestling channel as well as my personal channel, just to give you guys some more content, man. So
look at that. You get all the juicy details on We Are Wrestling podcast. But speaking of juicy things that happened this week, we have the highlight of the week. And of course, we had Money in the Bank last Saturday. We did a live watch along on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel. And this week in, the wrestling world, we even saw, AEW. We had, a great birthday segment with Adam Cole and MJF. Seems like
that was
they're
great,
really
bro.
Building that up. And with NXT, we're seeing Baron Corbin, reinvent himself. And there's a lot of interesting things going on in the wrestling world. So, Danny, what is your highlight of the week?
My week has been a little, off center, obviously because of the holiday and, my wife's birthday is on Friday or whatever. So I haven't really been keeping track. But personally, I got to say my highlight of the week was the birthday celebration between MJF and Adam Cole last night. Bro, I love the bromance and how, MJF showcasing his singing ability and him being like, I'm going to push his head into the cake. And then Adam Cole just pushes his head in the cake. And then Adam Cole's like, thank you, my friend. And, bro, when they hit this double clothesline, the entire pro wrestling world is going to fucking erupt, bro. They're talking about it on Twitch. They're talking about it in almost every single segment. It would have been cool if we hit that double clothesline. We got to do this tag team maneuver, the double clothesline.
Yeah,
bro,
I did see that on the Twitch. That was one of my highlights when he called Adam Cole as Chug on his stream. That was fantastic.
Everybody is gonna pop big when they finally hit that double clothesline, bro. It's gonna be nuts.
And that's the thing, like, there's even a lot of maniacs that are campaigning for MJF and Adam Cole to actually go and win the tag team championships.
Bro, they're actually really good together. Bro, MJF, I don't know if you really saw it or whatever. MJF was going around the ring, shaking people's hands and saying hi to people.
I know. Bro. He's like one of those door-to-door salesmen.
And then when he got on his knees and Adam Cole did the Adam Cole baby, and fucking MJF got on his knees in front of Adam Cole. Bro, what?
That's the thing. Like, I feel like anything MJF touches, it turns into platinum gold.
This is
That's
like
how
Triple
good
H and Shawn Michaels all over again, bro.
And that's the thing, like, MJF for me has always been my number one highlight with AEW, but now getting into my highlight of the week, and I'm sure it's a lot of We Are Wrestling Maniacs' highlights of the weeks, except for yours. It's gotta be Jay pinning Roman. I made the prediction last week on We Are Wrestling podcast. People thought I was crazy. Ben even had a whole different prediction until I, swerved him into, my prediction. And that was a great moment. I loved it.
Yeah, I was like, it was cool in the moment. And like, once it happened, I was like, I thought I was gonna be a little bit more excited when, that time finally came. And it was just going 3 years of Roman Reigns being on this dominant streak.
Mhm.
Am I mad that Jey Uso pinned Roman? I'm not mad that it was Jey Uso. I'm mad that it, it didn't have a bigger payoff. You know what I mean? I've always envisioned when Roman gets pinned, he's gonna find like the Roman Empire. The bloodline is just gonna crumble. He's gonna lose his titles. He's gonna lose his family. He's gonna lose everything. So I thought it was gonna have a bigger payoff. And I feel like at SummerSlam they're gonna be setting up a one-on-one match between Roman and Jey Uso. With Jey Uso getting the pin at Money in the Bank, that already factors in the fact that he's not gonna win at SummerSlam.
Oh, of
So
course not.
again, it's gonna be a very predictable payoff. I just always felt like if Roman
But here's the thing now.
loses,
You
he
talk
needs
about
to lose the
predictable.
titles.
I got to ask you, did you expect that to happen at Money in the Bank?
I did not. I thought Solo, because the last several times Solo's eating the pin. That's what I thought was gonna happen. Um, I just I just wish it was, when Roman got pinned, I just wish it was for the titles. And I wish that would be like the downfall of Roman's entire life crumbling.
Well,
It would
here's
have
the
it
thing.
would have had that
Here's
big of
what
a
here's
payoff.
where like I'm looking at it from, like from the perspective. Like I get where you're coming from because of course he hasn't been pinned in over 3 years, and you feel like he shouldn't have gotten pinned until he lost the championships, so that whoever beats him at WrestleMania 40, which a lot of people think it's going to be Cody Rhodes, it would have had an even bigger payoff. I totally understand where you're coming from that. But here's also, like you were mentioning about, how the bloodline, everything is going to crumble down. But here's the thing, the downfall of the bloodline has already started.
Yep.
And we're starting to see, the cracks. Like they're already teasing that Solo Sikoa is going to be the next tribal chief. And we already know that's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. My prediction, Survivor Series Royal Rumble around that time, so that they're going to build, the Solo and Roman Reigns thing so that it does get a bigger payoff. And I think they did this as well because going into SummerSlam, there's really nobody to go against him. And he hasn't defended the title since WrestleMania, I believe.
Yep.
And honestly, it does make a legitimate reason why Jey Uso gets a shot at the championship against Roman, because he pinned him and he hasn't been pinned over 3 years. And it wasn't a clean pin either. The Usos had to be dirty in the match, which I kind of like because they have been building this animosity for over 3 years. Jay even, wrestled Roman a couple times as well. And then eventually, Jimmy and Jay joined the bloodline, and it really built to this moment because now we're starting to see Roman Reigns being vulnerable, which we haven't got to see yet. And I think it's very important because it has been getting a little stale. And I think him losing this match, this is what he needs going into SummerSlam so that he, is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's, being the WWE Universal Undisputed Champion.
And here's what I'm gonna say about that. Like, I'm not mad that it was obviously Jey Uso to get the pin, because obviously 3 years ago, it's, the whole bloodline started with, a feud between the Usos and Roman, and Jay was getting his ass beat in the cell, and Jimmy was like, "Come on, man, we don't need to be doing this." And then Roman gave him a hug, thought he was gonna be embraced, and then Roman just beat the fuck out of both of them and made them fall in line, and then they slowly started joining behind Roman. So it makes perfect 100% sense that Jey Uso was the one that pinned him. But why couldn't they have had that much more faithful in Jey Uso to have him go against Roman at WrestleMania, him beat Roman for the titles? Because if Roman already been pinned 3 years, he been pinned, was obviously a non-title match. So whoever does go to WrestleMania and beats Roman, it's just gonna be it's just gonna be Roman losing the titles. It's not gonna have any kind of significant as much as like, oh my god, being the guy to beat Roman after 3 years of dominance and winning the world titles. You know what I mean?
Well, was technically a tag team match something that is not one of Roman Reigns' specialties.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to be playing that into this whole, thing. Because at the end of the day, he's still the champion. And as much as I would love Jey Uso to go to WrestleMania 40 and be the one to take the championships off of Roman, I think WWE typical fashion, it's going to be Cody Rhodes. He needs to finish the story. And I think it only makes sense that it's going to be him over Jey. If I was booking it, I would definitely be, considering Jey in that conversation. But I do think, going into SummerSlam, it is going to be an interesting build. They have, 5 weeks still to, build this even more and even bigger. And we know going into SummerSlam, Roman is going to win, but it's going to be interesting. How? That's the best thing about this whole bloodline angle. We always have that same question. How is it going to end? How is this going to happen? And that's the thing that makes me very excited for any bloodline type of match, because you know who's going to win, but how? Even sometimes you don't even know who's going to win. That's the best thing.
Yeah, I just feel like the match at SummerSlam is going to be too overly predictable, and I feel like it's going to throw a lot of people out of caring about the match as much as they should. Jey Uso is a phenomenal talent. He's definitely proven himself to be main event worthy, and I just hate that he has to be in this spot to where he pinned Roman in a meaningless match, and now he's getting a shot at the big time, and we already know he Roman's gonna win coming out of the match. So again, it's not gonna have that much of an impact, and I don't feel like it's gonna do much for Jey.
Unless they, do a swerve and they have, Jimmy turn on Jey.
I didn't I literally say that last week during the prediction video, and you and Ben totally brushed me off like you're an idiot, and Ben was being a jackass.
You said that at Money in the Bank. I'm talking about SummerSlam.
Yeah, but I did say,
especially with the stakes being up for the friggin' championship.
I did say, what if Jimmy realigns himself with the bloodline and turns on Jey? I did say that, and you guys totally brushed it off. But either way, like, going for Cody Rhodes. Now let's talk about Cody Rhodes for a second, because I mean, we're on the build, man. We're in the summer. Next stop is SummerSlam, and then we have Payback after that. I don't want Cody Rhodes to beat Roman. My stance on that hasn't changed. Him and Brock have been feuding for 4 months, and we still don't know why. We still have not gotten a legitimate reason as to why this feud is happening. I will say
something about Monday Night Raw real quick as well. I did like how Cody Rhodes came out, like with Seth Rollins, issuing like who's going to be up next. Cody comes out. It made sense because Brock hasn't been around, and then Lesnar comes out, and then that's when, he pays, attention back to Brock to, end their feud at SummerSlam. I did like that little touch that they did, but
why, bro? We need to know why Brock Lesnar has an issue with Cody Rhodes. The only thing we know is Brock Lesnar's upset that he wasn't in the main event at WrestleMania. But if that was the case, why would he go after the middleman instead of going after the source? If Brock Lesnar is really upset that, Roman put in a clause or whatever, if he lost last year at SummerSlam, that he can no longer challenge Roman for the titles, why not go after each individual member of the bloodline until Roman has no other choice than to grant him his wish with having one more match. Why attack Cody, who doesn't matter how much you beat him, doesn't matter how much you do anything, you're still not going to be able to get a title. It just doesn't make any sense at the end of the day.
I totally understand like the why, because I feel like every storyline you do need that. I wasn't a fan going from the night after Mania to Backlash. I was not a fan of the build for Cody versus Brock. But when they did the match at Backlash and, had the color, they really added that intensity that I really like in a rivalry. And they started to make things more interesting to me, in my opinion. Like, I got more interested in the feud when, they had this match at Backlash. But before that, I just didn't really care too much.
Like, I'm not mad that they're having this feud between Cody and Brock. But again, to get people invested, we got to know why. We got to know why. Like, have they had history in the past? Have they, had some kind of feud in an airport? Have they, had like some personal issues or whatever that we're not aware of? Like, we need to know why in order to get invested in what we're seeing on TV. So far, WWE has not gotten anybody invested in this, which is why nobody gives a fuck.
I can't like I agree with the why, but I have to disagree with people not being invested, because it does seem like a lot of people are still invested in Cody Rhodes, and it seems like people are like looking forward to this match at SummerSlam.
Here's what I would do. I would take Cody Rhodes out of the equation because he hasn't really done anything since WrestleMania to prove that he's worthy to beat Roman Reigns at all. And it doesn't even seem like he's interested anymore because he hasn't had any kind of mention or anything revolving Roman Reigns since WrestleMania.
The press conference, he did mention something about not wanting the press conference after Money in the Bank. He talked about how
I didn't end up
so
watching
here's the thing. Somebody asked him about the World Heavyweight Championship, and Cody said he loves the World Heavyweight Championship and what it means, but like it would not make sense for him to go after that title. It makes more sense for him to finish the story because his dad never won the WWE Championship. He did mention that in the press conference.
Yeah, well, press conference and being, saying that on Monday Night Raw to where it actually, it makes sense for him to say that.
Yeah, him walking out, going for the world.
two different things. You know what I mean? He has yet to go on Monday Night Raw or any kind of like WWE show and outright be like, "I'm not done with Roman. I'm not done with the bloodline. I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna proclaim. I'm gonna finish my story."
That after he beats Brock.
Maybe
on that Raw, and if we don't, that's when you can start to criticize it. I think once he gets Brock out of the equation.
Here's what I would do, right now. I haven't even mentioned this to anybody, and I've heard people utter like this is what should happen, but I haven't mentioned or talked about it with anybody. I would take Cody Rhodes out of the equation for right now. And I would have Gunther win the Royal Rumble, and I would have him challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I feel like that'd be
I would love Gunther to be the one that I would be invested in.
The dude is like, how much longer? Same thing with LA Knight. How much longer are you gonna be able to keep these guys red hot but not give them the opportunity? I mean, you got to strike while the iron's hot. You know what I mean?
And I think LA Knight, he's going to be the one to take the title off of Theory. And I'm seeing it now all over IWC Twitter. I'm seeing everybody talk about it. LA Knight's going to be the one to take the title off of Theory. And I'm like, I've been saying that on the podcast for months. Yeah. I knew LA Knight was not going to win the Money in the Bank. I knew they had something else in mind. And I knew that their way of, putting a Band-Aid on that was having him be the one to beat Theory at, SummerSlam. Gives that championship a fresh start, especially, needs more prestigiousness because, Theory just hasn't had the best run. Hasn't had the title too long. And I think LA Knight can definitely make that championship very prestigious.
You could always have Cody, have LA Knight win, the U.S. title, have him have a feud with Cody Rhodes for the U.S. title, and then put Gunther, have him win the Royal Rumble and have him challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. You could do
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot
Just
of
be-
different ways that we
just
can.
because Cody Rhodes has to finish the story doesn't necessarily mean he has to do it while Roman Reigns is champion.
That is true. But there is lots of ways that, they can do this, and we're just going to have to wait and see because there's still a lot of time left before we get into WrestleMania. But up next, we're going to be covering the topics for We Are Wrestling 64. We'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling podcast.
What's crackin' everybody? WWE Hall of Famer, The Godfather here, and you're listening to, that's right, you are listening to We Are Wrestling Podcast. Check them out, man. Stay on that smoke train.
Are you looking for wrestling content? Well, We Are Wrestling provides everything pro wrestling. The best one, Donnie, Danny Huckins, and the Lone Ranger Ben are wrestling marks like you who love this sport. We Are Wrestling has it all when it comes to wrestling content. We have different podcasts, vlogs, reactions, full wrestling matches, live pay-per-view watch-alongs, interviews, predictions, and so much more. Only on We Are Wrestling. What are you waiting for? Subscribe and become a We Are Wrestling Maniac now. We're back, and our first topic for this week's episode of the We Are Wrestling Podcast 64. Speaking of the Money in the Bank, we saw two new Money in the Bank winners. Damian Priest won the men's ladder match, and Io Sky won the women's ladder match. How do you feel about this booking decision to have both of these two win?
I'm actually not mad about it. During our prediction video, I said Io Sky was going to win. That was my prediction. And I said my number one pick obviously was LA Knight. I mean, if you heard that crowd reaction, could you really blame me? The dude is over as fuck. Like, I don't think there's anybody outside of Roman Reigns who's more over right now than LA Knight. LA Knight is fucking global. So my first pick was LA Knight. My second dark horse pick was Damian Priest. I am really happy that Logan Paul didn't win. And I did say during the prediction video, I feel like Logan's in this match to do some crazy spots and to set up a feud between him and Ricochet, which is going to be happening. I do believe we're getting Ricochet and Logan Paul at SummerSlam. That's going to be a great match.
I'm excited because Ricochet deserves this opportunity.
Did you see
on one of the big stages in a singles match?
Did you see the video of them? It was backstage during Money in the Bank.
I did. Them brawling, loved it.
I loved it too. So I do think that match is gonna steal the show. Besides, obviously, Roman versus Jey. I feel like that's gonna be match of the night, in my opinion. I mean, Ricochet and Logan Paul are just so. It's stupid how talented each of them are, and it gives Ricochet some time to shine because with Logan Paul having the kind of reach that he has, I feel like it'll get more eyes on Ricochet because Ricochet, WWE sort of kept him as a lower mid-carder, and they haven't really given him the kind of opportunity that I feel like he deserves.
Here's the thing. I was telling Ben this last week's episode. Somebody did like a tally of like the amount of matches that everybody has worked in WWE, and this year Ricochet's been the workhorse. He's had more matches than anybody on the roster.
Exactly, man. The dude he's a real company guy. You know what I mean? He's not like quite like he doesn't have the popularity of like Seth Rollins or LA Knight or Damian Priest or Finn Balor, like one of those. But I do feel like he deserves to be in the same category as them just because of the amount of work that he puts in. And I feel like with him having this feud with Logan Paul, and obviously we're going to see how it transpires this coming Monday on Raw, which I'm excited about. I feel like I hope it gets more eyes on Ricochet and it really shows WWE like this guy, like he can fucking go. You know what I mean? And I do feel like they did put him on the Intercontinental Championship on him last year, a year and a half ago, because Sami Zayn was going to lose against not Johnny Knoxville, and they didn't obviously want Johnny Knoxville to walk around with the IC title. That's why they gave him the title. They didn't necessarily give Ricochet the title to be like, you're championship material, man. Here, take it and run with it, because they didn't really give him the opportunity to do much with the title.
All I know
But
is all I know is right now, like in pro wrestling, timing is everything, and Ricochet is really doing fantastic right now. Ever since Braun Strowman got out of the picture, like he's
yeah,
really elevated himself and he's putting on banger matches every Monday. And I think, him having this feud with Logan Paul is going to put him in, that next level that he needs. Like he has not
yeah.
had a singles match on a big pay-per-view yet or premier live event. And Ricochet, has worked his ass off to get to this opportunity, to get to this moment. And I think that he's going to seize it and he's going to really catapult after this.
All I know is WWE. If anybody from WWE sees this podcast or sees this clip or anything like that on social media, you need to push this guy to the fucking moon, man. Because if you ever lose Ricochet, like he is one of the most talented performers on the entire WWE roster, and that's including NXT. The guy can just do stuff that no human being should be able to do. So you need to like strap the rocket on this dude and fucking just have him go to the moon. Um, but as far as Damian Priest, man, he's been a workhorse also. If you looked at Damian Priest when he first came to the main roster from NXT, he was sort of a jobber. They didn't really know where to put him or where to place him. It wasn't until Edge recruited him, as well as Rhea Ripley, to be a part of the Judgment Day, to where WWE really saw like a main event guy in Damian Priest. Like he was booked like that on NXT Black and Gold, but obviously NXT and main roster is a lot different. People that are main event worthy in NXT, they're usually jobbers or mid carders, and they don't really go much further than that once they hit Raw or SmackDown. So I do like, the placement of where Damian Priest currently is. And I honestly could see him having a hell of a feud and maybe even at some point, potentially, maybe at Survivor Series, potentially beating Rollins for the title. I don't, however, now this is, people might look at this weird. I don't want just a basic cash in from Damian Priest, just because I know how talented the guy is, and I want people to like be like he earned this fucking opportunity, this title. I don't want him to just do a running cash in. I would like for it to be a full on match. You know what I mean?
I like the run in, man, because it's an opportunity and Damian Priest is, he has that's one thing about him, which is why it was so cool when Edge recruited him. They both have that same mentality when it comes to seizing a moment, seizing an opportunity. And I feel like Priest would be the type of person to, run in, cash in, get it successfully. And I could see him having a great run with that championship.
I could too. I don't want people to look at Damian Priest like, oh, he only won it because, Rollins was already hurt and he already wrestled, a 15-minute
Yeah,
match
but
or
that's
whatever.
where
So,
like Rollins will get a shot for the championship at the next Premier Live event after he cashes in, and
I mean,
then Priest
I
will beat
could.
him.
I could see Damian Priest potentially beating him at Survivor Series and them carrying over to the feud and maybe having a big match at WrestleMania, then being one of the marquee matches for the world title, one of the co-main events. I could definitely see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
there's a
fire.
lot of things with Priest, and that's the thing. My thoughts on both Priest and Sky winning this. We all had Sky winning the
Mhm.
briefcase because
Yep.
we all know what's going to happen there. But with, Damian Priest, he was one of our dark horses. And I know going into the predictions, I did say Logan Paul was going to win, and I believed it. But honestly, like doing the predictions video, the more we talked about it, the less I believed in Logan Paul winning. And that's the thing. I think him working with Ricochet, I think that's great. You hit the nail on the head on that one. I think it will do great things for Ricochet, great things for Logan Paul. And Logan Paul doesn't really need a championship right now, anyways. Priest, it makes sense because there's certain people that want Priest to take that next step in his career. When he first got to the main roster, he did some tag teaming with Bad Bunny, went against, Morrison and Miz. Then he, had a great run with the US Championship, solid mid-card guy, but then he got lost in the shuffle for a little bit. That was until Edge, recruited him in Judgment Day, and ever since then, like, he has really stepped up. When WWE needed him, he stepped up to the plate. Him and Bad Bunny, they put on a fantastic match at Backlash where people were saying that should have been the main event of that premiere live event. He went on to Raw, the show I went to, put on a classic with Seth Rollins, and I think he's just, getting better and better, and I think really it makes sense for him to have the briefcase because that's the perfect way to transition him from being a mid-card guy to the world champion. And we're starting to see it now because there's cracks within the Judgment Day.
Yep.
And I think pretty soon, the prediction I made a few months ago is going to happen. The Judgment Day will be turning on Finn Balor, and Balor and Priest will be having a feud, and that will kill some time for, Priest not to focus on cashing in the briefcase. And then once he gets done with Balor, then, he'll focus on the championship.
My picks, I have 3 picks on ways that he could, or times that he could cash in. Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, or if they really want to have him have a big moment, because it happened at WrestleMania 31. Imagine if Damian Priest cashed in on Rollins at WrestleMania after Rollins just defended the world title. We saw Rollins, his first time winning the WWE title, cash it in at WrestleMania.
That did catapult him to that next level.
You could always do that, man.
You know what I would do? I'll tell you this. And I'm not going to, dive into like a whole fantasy booking thing because we have lots of, topics to cover on here. Yep. But here's what I could see happening. I could see, Seth Rollins being champion until Survivor Series. Priest will fight Finn Balor at the Survivor Series. Balor will beat Priest. Then, going into the main event of the night, Rollins will, successfully defend the championship against somebody. After Rollins is done with that match, Priest comes out, cashes in, and wins the World Heavyweight Champion. That will lead into, going into the Rumble. You can have a triple threat match, Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, because Finn Balor beat Damian Priest before he cashed in that Money in the Bank. So that gives you a legitimate reason to put Balor in the main event picture. Because I feel like with Triple H's booking, he has big plans for Balor. We've seen it in NXT, how he booked him. And I think, under Triple H's creative, Finn Balor is doing great work right now at the Judgment Day. But when they turn on him, Balor is going to be one of the top, guys that WWE is going to be building their shows around. And that's going to make things interesting because then Damian Priest will be the leader of the Judgment Day and he'll be in a better role.
So with Finn Balor defeating Damian Priest and then Damian Priest cashing in later on that night and then having the triple threat match at Royal Rumble, would that then set up a match, a one-on-one match between Damian and Finn Balor at WrestleMania for the world title?
I don't know, because they could have that singles match after the Rumble. They could have that singles match even before the Rumble. So there's ways of doing it, but that's just a very long time from now. We don't even know what's going to happen with Balor and Priest.
Fantasy booking, man. That's what it's all about.
Fantasy booking. We love doing that here on the We Are Wrestling podcast.
It's fun. Let us know some of your fantasy bookings in the comment section. But I like your idea, man. I really do. As far as Io Sky, I wasn't able to touch on this because we were talking about Logan Paul and Ricochet and Damian. I like the fact that she won. I do feel like, it's her time to really showcase what she can do. And I believe it was at Backlash, she was really close and then Bayley ended up screwing her. And then at Money in the Bank, we saw her take Becky Lynch and Bayley and handcuff them together.
What a finish.
And then she climbed. I think it was Bayley she climbed up on. And then seeing her hold the briefcase on top of the ladder and seeing Becky Lynch and Bayley just handcuffed, just standing there. Such a great, great moment, and a moment that people are going to remember forever.
It was funny
Um,
after the press conference, Bailey had the handcuffs still on her.
but I know a lot of people have said, well, Io Sky could possibly cash in on Rhea Ripley. I don't really like that idea.
Not
I
happening.
would much rather her go against Asuka just because of the history that they have with each other. I just feel like that'll make for a better feud as well as a overall better story and a better match that people can really sink their teeth into. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. But isn't Damage Control technically on SmackDown? So
They are in the
Sky,
SmackDown brand.
Io Sky is on the same brand as Asuka, so that makes even more sense for her to go after Asuka for the world title. I would have maybe Zoe Stark go after Rhea Ripley or something like that. I don't necessarily need to see Trish Stratus win, another world title, but I can see her sort of coaching Zoe Stark to finally win, a big, main event match at some point down the line.
Yeah. It's definitely gonna be interesting. I feel like with Io Sky, she's definitely gonna cash in on Asuka at some point, but I do think that she's not going to cash in right away. I
Yep.
think that we're going to get the Io Sky and Bailey feud pretty soon. It's gonna happen. And I
Yeah.
think after the whole feud with Bailey, then she's gonna cash in at the right time against, Asuka, and I think we're going to get a fantastic feud with them too, and we're going to get a dream match.
I just hope to fucking God that the feud between Io Sky and Asuka is a hell of a lot better than Asuka and Bianca was. That
That was a
build
bad
was
feud.
absolutely atrocious,
Yeah,
if I do say so myself.
I do agree with that, but I am happy with both winners. I think they definitely made the right decisions there.
Absolutely, man.
But now, moving on to our next WWE topic. Over on WWE.com, they changed Bray Wyatt's photo to The Fiend on their website. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on this?
So I heard some rumblings. Obviously, we haven't seen Bray Wyatt since before WrestleMania. Um, some recent pictures have surfaced. The guy looks, I mean, he looks good.
It's looking
Not much has
great.
changed or whatever. He is, growing the beard out a little bit more. But he looks like he's in good shape. He was out with some kind of medical situation. Nobody's clear on what that was. A lot of people were speculating that, it was almost the same thing as Keith Lee, like, because after Keith Lee, he contracted COVID, and then, the after effects or whatever, there was something wrong with his heart, so he had to have some kind of testing done. There were people speculating that possibly that was sort of a very similar situation that's going on with Bray Wyatt. And then it came out, I think Sean Ross Sapp reported this. Either Sean Ross or Mike Johnson. I can't remember which one. One of them broke a news story that Vince McMahon wants Bray Wyatt to come back as the Fiend.
I
And
did see that.
Jason Baker, the guy that actually made the Fiend mask, he took to social media and apparently said he retweeted an article about it, and he posted that'll be a little bit hard seeing as the Fiend mask molds have all been destroyed like a year ago. So I don't know what's going on with it. I mean, are they gonna hire somebody else to make a revamped mask? Are we gonna get a new mask? Are we gonna, obviously if we're gonna be getting a whole new Fiend, they're gonna use the old picture or whatever because they're gonna want to surprise people. They're not just gonna want out if they do end up making like a revamped mask or just like the Fiend, but have it be a totally different than what it was. I'm not that crazy about it, man. The Eater of Worlds, Bray Wyatt's one of my favorite Wyatt.
Exactly.
I thought when Bray Wyatt came in as the Fiend, I thought it was gonna be sort of similar thing as Bray Wyatt or as Finn Balor, like he is with the Demon. Like you only see him during big moments. You don't see him every fucking week or every time he wrestles or whatever. That's what I thought the Fiend was gonna be. Like we would see him on we'd see him probably at SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, like big when it really needs somebody powerful like the Fiend or whatever. And then the rest of the time it was going to be Bray Wyatt just being Bray Wyatt. But he would also have like that dark side within him, and he needs to pull it out, he's able to. That's what I thought it was going to be. I didn't know every time he wrestles, it was going to be the fucking Fiend.
That was
And
my issue with the booking decision with the Fiend.
it just grows stale.
It should have been the way that they do the Demon with Finn Balor. You're right.
Yep. Um, I don't know what they're doing, man. I'm a huge fan of Bray Wyatt. I like seeing him on TV. I like his promo work. And we all should have known something was gonna happen when we started seeing these Firefly Funhouse vignettes. Even though at Extreme Rules, when he came back, the Firefly Funhouse was destroyed and all the puppets were dead or whatever. It was like we're getting a new version. This was not. It was made clear to us as the audience that the Fiend was no more, and that side of Bray Wyatt was dead. And now they want to revamp it. They want to bring it back, and it's not something that I'm personally a fan of. As much as I like Wyatt, I really fucking do. Like, he's my favorite pro wrestler probably of the last 15 years or so. Just I like that mysterious, ominous, kind of evil kind of character. Whatever the promos that he would cut when he was the Eater of Worlds, Bray Wyatt, and the feud that he had with John Cena, like, it was great stuff, man. That's the kind of Bray Wyatt I want. And I understand
Me
him saying
too.
like he that part of Bray Wyatt died, when Brody Lee died. Now I understand that,
But like,
they
why
were
can't he
extremely
just be
close.
himself? Like,
Exactly, man.
that's like my issue when it comes down to it. Like, my thoughts on all of this. I'm excited that he's going to be coming back soon, but just his run has been lackluster since coming back, and
Mhm.
it disappoints me. I loved when Bray Wyatt first came in the WWE. I think that character was perfect for him. Never understood why they had to change his character. They did the Fiend thing, the SummerSlam presentation when he debuted as the Fiend, fantastic. The
Mhm.
Firefly Funhouse stuff, I enjoyed at first. But when they started to make the lights red, when they started to do the cinematic bullshit matches, even,
I
at
did
the
like
Royal
the match
Rumble,
that he had. I did like the match he had with Daniel Bryan. That was a really good match.
I just don't like I don't like the cinematic matches.
Yep.
Like with Bray Wyatt, people compare him to The Undertaker. A lot of people say he's the next Taker, this and that. If you want him to be the next Taker, he needs to not only prove it with, his great presentation, great promo work, great character work,
Yep.
he needs to also prove it in the ring. The Undertaker, the man has had phenomenal matches with some of the greats in this business. You look back at some of his matches, we got to see The Undertaker, fight Shawn Michaels not once, but 2 times at WrestleMania.
Yep.
Some of the best matches.
The classic
Undertaker has
iconic
been
Hell
in.
in a Cell match between him and Mankind.
Him and Yokozuna, their feud during the New Generation WWF. There was a lot
The
of
Inferno
great
match
things.
between him and Kane.
Him and Brock Lesnar during Ruthless Aggression. There's so many. And if Bray Wyatt wants to be remembered as like the next Undertaker, the next Phenom, there's never going to be another Undertaker. But if he wants to be like a legend in this business, he wants to be a Hall of Famer, he needs to wrestle regular matches. And
Yep.
you need to save this Fiend stuff for special occasions when
Mhm.
it matters, when it has a big payoff. And in wrestling, that's how, you sell tickets. That's how you get ratings, is from big monumental moments. That's why the Bloodline is the number one storyline in all of wrestling.
Yep.
Bray Wyatt has that potential of being number one, but the problem is they do too many cinematic matches. I don't mind the cinematic promos. I don't mind the entrances. I don't mind the presentation. I love all of that. But give me a regular Bray Wyatt match.
Yeah.
We
I
don't
will
need different
say,
colors in the ring. We don't need things that are happening on a compound or a swamp. Just give us regular matches.
I did not mind those compound matches when him and Randy Orton were going at it, because it was obviously Bray Wyatt is Bray Wyatt, and his compound with Sister Abigail and the farmhouse or whatever. I did really enjoy that, because it almost looked like we were in like inside of like a horror movie, and obviously if you can tell behind me, I'm really into that kind of dark stuff, that dark decrepit stuff. We gotta take in a point that this Fiend thing, it might have been Bray Wyatt's idea at first, but I don't think Vince McMahon wanting Bray Wyatt to come back as the Fiend, I don't think this is Bray Wyatt's idea. And sometimes if you want a fucking job, we got to remember he has a wife, he has kids. If you want a fucking job, you got to do sometimes what the boss says, even though the boss is a decrepit old man who doesn't know what the fuck, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. We've seen, man, over some of the situations that have happened over the last couple of weeks. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you're not a fuck. So, we can't really point too much of the blame on Wyatt. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, as much as it sucks. When it came to the Pitch Black match, the match wasn't that good. I do feel like they could have done more between Bray Wyatt and LA Knight. But the glow in the dark face paint, not gonna lie, that was creepy
cool
as fuck. That was creepy as fuck.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like Bray Wyatt, like, we do need to get some regular matches, and hopefully when he comes
Absolutely.
back this time around, it's not lackluster. I really hope that, he can finally, get that momentum and really take off, and they could do this the right way. They've
Yep.
had so many opportunities, and they, get us excited, and then they blow it, which I really hope this time around they don't. I hope that they hit themselves a grand slam. And, Bray Wyatt can, win the WWE Championship or the World Heavyweight Championship and really take off. And at the same time, not be shoved in our faces, having him lose all the time or win all the time. Balance it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement, man. Like, if I had to pick, I would not want the Fiend to, make a resurgence in WWE. My least favorite Bray Wyatt character. But I hope they right the wrongs of what they did in the first run, and this does become not a 24/7 thing. I hope they do, take pointers from, Finn Balor and the Fiend or whatever, and or Finn Balor and the Demon, and bring out the Fiend in special occasions, but it's still Bray Wyatt. And are we ever going to get a reveal of who Uncle Howdy is, even though we're probably, it's Bo Dallas. We pretty much already know that. But still, there was no payoff to everything that was happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, are we going to be getting any kind of payoff when he does come back? And something tells me that he's going to end up making his return at SummerSlam. If you remember, the Fiend debuted at SummerSlam.
Yeah, usually at SummerSlam, the past couple of years, we've had big returns, and I think Bray Wyatt, that's going to be probably the return.
If it's not Bray Wyatt returning, it's Randy Orton. Those are my two predictions before we get into we're still a couple weeks away, man. A lot of things can change. But and I'll say this again when we do the SummerSlam prediction video. But it's either Bray Wyatt returning or it's Randy Orton. We're getting one of those two individuals at SummerSlam this year.
I got Bray Wyatt. But moving on now to a video game topic, which normally we don't really cover video game stuff here on the We Are Wrestling podcast. AEW Fight Forever dropped some big news earlier today as we're recording this episode. AEW Fight Forever is going to be having a stadium stampede mode, similar to Fortnite, where there's going to be 30 online, guys, and they get to compete in, the stadium stampede, and the last one standing wins. It's going to be the same concept as Fortnite. There's going to be treasure chests, you can find, weapons and stuff, and then you just have to take the person out. And it's definitely a very interesting game mode. How do you feel about that, Danny?
I actually really like it, and I haven't gotten to play the game yet. I heard, because I don't have, I'm not a huge gamer or whatever, so I don't have, an updated console. I have a PS4, and, but from whatever everybody's said, or a lot of people have said, there's some kind of, bugs and stuff going on with the PS4 version, so I have yet to get the game or whatever. I know you streamed it on the channel. You had a blast with it. I know you can do, different game modes, especially when you do, Road to Elite. like there's a thing to where like you can do like a mini game versus the elite or whatever, and like one of them is like one of them is like you run around the ring or whatever and capture coins or whatever, and the person that gets the most coins can win. And
I
like
love it. It reminds me of Mario Party.
there's like AW trivia, to see what your AW knowledge is like. So this game, the life cycle of this game is going to be long because they're going to be adding a lot to it. And there's been a lot of people complaining, oh, the game's boring, there's not much added to it. People need to realize that this is not a game that's going to be coming out every year. It's not going to be a WWE 2K to where you get an updated version of the game every single year. You know what I mean? They're just going to continuously add more things to this.
It's an arcade game. That's what
Exactly.
people keep forgetting. Like, I've had so much fun playing AEW Fight Forever with the little time that I had. And even doing, my first ever video game live stream on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel, I had a blast. And I have not had fun playing a wrestling game since WWE 13, which that was the last game that THQ made for WWE. Like, I've enjoyed what they've done in, all different wrestling games, and AEW Fight Forever, you don't have to spam the reverse button. Like, you actually can get moves down. It's easy to play. I think it's a lot of fun. I don't like how the entrance thing, like, you can't fully see the entrances.
Yeah.
The creative mode isn't
That's how it was
as
in New
good.
Mercy, though. You couldn't see they didn't do like the full entrances.
And like the creative players, like, creating custom wrestlers in the game isn't that good, but
they're gonna be adding
for
more
me,
skins to it.
But here's the thing though, the gameplay, that's what matters to me. And that's what I enjoy the most. Like the explosive barbed wire death match. That was a fun friggin' match that I was not expecting to be fun. And I've been enjoying it. All the weapon options you get, fantastic. And now a Fortnite mode in a wrestling video game? I cannot wait. Once that comes out, hopefully it's not when I'm away on vacation, I'm definitely going to be doing a live stream here on the We Are Wrestling channel because I'm very excited for this mode. I think it has a lot of potential of being a needle mover. I think that it's definitely going to sell more games to people that, have been unsure about getting this game or not. And I think that this really has the potential of being very big in the.
And I heard it's gonna be like a free download or whatever. It's almost like like Call of Duty, like you have to buy the actual game to play, like whatever the different game modes
the
are,
maps
like
and stuff.
stuff like that. But Warzone, which is like you run around a big map and you and your team, whatever, whoever kills the most people, whatever, that is free, and Fortnite is free. So I'm thinking that maybe this is going to be free as well. I have no idea if you already have to pre-purchase the game in order to get it. Like it's not something you'll
Probably.
have to be added to it. But I'm interested in seeing what happens, man. If I'm able to, bro, I'll be playing the shit out of this, man.
I think that this definitely has the potential of, being a needle mover. I think, doing a Fortnite mode in a wrestling game is brilliant. We see, all these other games doing it as well. Call of Duty even has like a mode similar to it. And I think that this is just a fantastic, move for AEW overall. It's an arcade game. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be all real. So I kind of like that. It
And I will
definitely brings me
say,
back to, the old times.
and I will say, this just goes to show you that WWE and 2K are scamming the fuck out of everybody. Because if AEW can add something like this to a game that's already released, 2K, every couple of months, if they wanted to, they could add more shit to the newest game or whatever that's out.
Yes, they
They
can.
don't want to. It's all
Yep.
about this.
EA, 2K, oh yeah. Because I play NBA 2K all the time with, my friends, and somehow, some way, I always be buying the next game.
Now I obviously know how the WWE game is, but when you get the updated version of the NBA games, is there like much of a difference compared to the older one?
Nope. Just graphics, and you get the rookies that got drafted in the upcoming draft.
that shit that could be added to the fucking previous year
Yep.
game, man.
They add them into Buy Team, which is a mode where like you have to spend virtual currency to, open up packs and stuff. And if you spend enough, you can play with these guys already. Yeah, it's all a money act. Like when I play, these games, I don't spend my money anymore on the virtual currency. It's a waste of time. If I want to, open up a pack of cards, I'll go to the store and go buy some. Wow, it's
Man.
so weird that we were just talking about a video game thing when we never covered that stuff.
I know. But I'm really looking like everybody, obviously the WWE elitists, that want to forget AEW existed, like, they'll never give the AEW game a chance or whatever. But bro, like, do you know how hard it is to have fun watching a game stream without actually being involved in the playing? I have a great time just watching people stream the game and play it, man. Just as see what was without even playing it. Do you know how hard that is?
It's so much fun, and that's the thing, like, with WWE 2K, it's so realistic. Like, you have all these trolls that just press triangle, which is the reverse button on the PlayStation controller, and you could just press that nonstop, and yeah, you can't even get moves done. Like, I remember playing against one of my buddies, I think it was Ricky. I was playing him in WWE 2K, and I was trying to get my finisher on him. And every time, he fucking reversed it. You know how many times I freaking did a finishing move on him? I did probably at least 15 times, all reversed. That's not how it should be. Like, the game, you have to be able to, play offense and play defense. And I feel like, with AEW Fight Forever, they're more focused on the offense. They're more focused on having the fun. All the players have the same health. It's not like Roman Reigns is a 99 and James Ellsworth is a 65 overall. It's, completely different. But honestly,
And like
Fight
Ben
Forever, love it.
we were talking last week, and we were like, somebody that's actually, a performer in AEW, a huge gamer, he's hands on a lot with Fight Forever. And Ben was like, yeah, well, WWE has Xavier Woods, with his up down channel. I don't know how hands on he is with the WWE 2K games, man. Like, 2K is a huge fucking juggernaut company.
He's
You know
not.
what I mean?
2K, they pay him to play the game more on up, down, down. It's a sponsorship pretty much. Yeah, that's what I was thinking exactly as well when Ben mentioned that. But now moving on to our, next topic here. This past Tuesday on NXT, we had a tag team match where the losing team must leave NXT, and the Creed brothers both lost, and now they are set to be on the main roster pretty soon. How do you feel about this?
We're gonna get some more authentic tag teams on the main roster, man. I mean, it's nothing bad about it. I know a little bit about the Creed brothers, but I'm not like a religious watcher of NXT. I usually only watch it before like one of their big like PLEs, or if I can't watch Raw one night, I'll usually, just to give people on my channel an extra stream, I'll watch NXT on a Tuesday or whatever. But it's not like an every week kind of thing. So I don't know how they've been doing over the last couple of months. I don't know if they're ready. I don't know if much of their in-ring work has improved. Not that it was ever really bad, but obviously it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. There's always things you can improve at the end of the day. So I am a little bit nervous because WWE has a track record at not really booking a lot of NXT talent strong. You know what I mean? I mean, it took Baron Corbin to go to NXT to develop this new character, whatever it is.
I love
So
it.
is it good that the Creed brothers are possibly going to the main roster? Yes. But I have zero faith in Vince McMahon and them schmucks to book them strong the way they need to be booked.
Here's the thing about the Creed brothers.
I do want to say this, though. I was just thinking about this. I could see them sort of pairing up with Chad Gable and Otis and like, forming like a stable because they're almost like the same kind of gimmicks.
Yeah, similar to like Diamond Mine. I could see something like that. But with the Creed brothers, I must say, I've been paying attention to them and I think they do have a lot of upside. I think they do have a lot of potential. They're both fantastic workers in the ring. The only thing that's going to concern me is storyline wise, the storytelling side of things, because of course, that's the bread and butter for, the main roster is the storylines that lead into these big, matches going into the premier live events. And I know they both are fantastic workers, but I want to see what they can do personality wise. Like,
Mhm.
can they get over with, casual fans? And I think I'm going to say this. I could see them both winning tag team championships. I could see them having a nice, successful tag team run if booked properly. But I think long term, Julius Creed, not the bigger guy in the group, he's going to become a top mid card, maybe a main event guy in WWE, I think.
Like I said, man, they have all the tools to become successful.
He's the Shawn
Uh,
Michaels and Brutus Creed. He's the Jannetty.
But I have very little faith in in Vince McMahon and their booking when it comes to NXT talent. They have a track record of pretty much burying all these guys.
Well, that's one thing that I did hear from reports is that WWE is very high on Julius Creed from, the Creed brothers. Like, he has made a huge leap. And I think that's somebody that we definitely need to pay attention to and keep our eyes on because I feel like, I don't see both of these guys being a tag team forever on the main roster. And I'm talking like 3 to 5 years from now. I'm not talking right away. But I think, Julius, he could be a big player if they, do things right. I think that, given the right, character, given the right opportunity, because timing is everything, he can become a big star in the business. We saw, because this tag team does remind me a little bit of, Kurt Angle's group, Team Angle, the greatest, tag team of all time, Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas. And during, one of, the WWE drafts, they ended up splitting them up. And, Shelton went on to having a better career than Charlie. Shelton, became an Intercontinental Champion, did a lot of crazy spots in the Money in the Banks, while Charlie Haas, he was wrestling on, Velocity and Heat and doing little storylines. And I
Yep.
feel like out of the two in the Creed brothers, I don't see them being a tag team forever. I think Julius has a lot of upside.
Like I said, man, it goes back to all like how they're booked, and we gotta like. I think Triple H will book them really strong. I feel like more so it's Triple H that's really high on them. But Triple H's word, it's not 100% whatever Triple H says goes. You know what I mean? Vince McMahon is still involved, and we have to
They
remember,
have a
bro.
whole creative team too.
Yeah, but we have to remember, bro. Vince McMahon wanted to job out and release Gunther because he didn't think he was a main event guy. So we have to look at that too, man. If he wanted to release a guy like fucking Gunther, who knows what the fuck he would do if he got his hands on these guys.
Here's something I will say about that. And I believe I said this a while back on one of the older episodes of the podcast. I do think every promoter, every, head of creative, they have their own guys that they push. They have their own guys that they root for. And everybody has a different vision when it comes to something in life. Like your, views on wrestling and my views on wrestling, we might have some similarities, but we do see different things. And everybody has that, different point of view. And with Vince McMahon, there's, certain guys that, fit his mold better. Same with Triple H. Same with, Tony Khan in AEW. Same thing with Scott D'Amore in TNA. Even back then with, Jeff Jarrett running things. Everybody has their own guys that they push. Even Paul Heyman. CM Punk, he was a Paul Heyman guy. Brock Lesnar was a Paul Heyman.
Man.
So that's something a lot of people do forget, I feel like, when it comes to creative, because what Vince would have for Gunter wouldn't be the same than what Triple H has or what somebody else would have, because everybody has their own vision of somebody and what they want to do.
But at the end of the day, man, it's Vince McMahon's company. Whatever he says goes. He'll get the final word as long as he has a breath in his body. And like, am I saying this is gonna happen? No. I'm just saying WWE has a very long track record of not pushing NXT talent to where they need to be.
Wait, what did you say about Vince McMahon's company?
I said it's Vince McMahon's company. At the end of the day, he's gonna have the final word and the final say in fucking everything. And
Well,
WWE has a track record of not pushing NXT talent to where they should be pushed.
Well, we do have a comment like that we are going to be talking about up next, because
Oh my God, what a segue.
comment of the weeks, and we got some pretty big topics that we're going to be covering involving AEW and also Mr. 5 Stars, Dave Meltzer. We'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling 64.
Hey, this is Flip Gordon. You're listening to the We Are Wrestling podcast. Let's flip and go!
Hello, this is Eric Redbeard, and you're listening to We Are Wrestling podcast with these two guys. What's your name?
Best one, Donnie.
And you?
Danny Huckins.
Best one, Donnie, Danny Huckins, Eric Redbeard, We Are Wrestling podcast. Check it out.
We're back, and before we get into our comment of the week, I just want to let you guys know that next week's episode of the We Are Wrestling podcast, I will not be around. I'm going to be going away on vacation with my fiance, and Ben and a special guest will be covering, the news for next week's episode of We Are Wrestling 65. But now let's get into the comment of the weeks, where We Are Wrestling, all you have to do is just comment on any random YouTube video of ours to have, your comment featured on a future episode of the podcast. And this week we have not one, not two, not three, but 4 comment of the weeks. And we're going to dive into them right here, right now. And the first one is from Jack Roman 2761. He stated this about your favorite Vince McMahon. He said, WWE is Vince, and he is not going anywhere, so get used to it. And I believe this was when we were complaining on a live stream or something.
Well, what's his name?
His name is Jack Roman 2761.
Jack Roman. He's definitely a Vince McMahon cocksucker. Next!
I love the comment of the weeks. All right, the next comment we have is from one of our loyal We Are Wrestling maniacs we see all the time, at Hitman6945. I feel like this is like his 3rd comment of the week already. He said this about the whole, Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey turn. And I quote, "I have been a fan of Shayna Baszler for a long time. This is the Queen of Spades I have been wanting to see for quite some time. She spoke a lot of truth in her promo. Nothing she said was a lie. Shayna has worked hard to get to where she is at now, while Ronda pretty much had everything handed to her. Time for everyone to what Shayna Baszler is all about. Hashtag the rise of the Queen of Spades."
I like this guy's style, man. It's the Shayna Baszler we need. It's the same Shayna Baszler we want. And I said it during my reaction to the whole segment on TikTok. I was like, Shayna said everything that us pro wrestling fans wanted to say to Ronda Rousey. Especially when she went on that rant and talked bad about, pro wrestling fans or whatever, and saying that, we owe her this, we owe her that, this and that, talking all kinds of shit a couple years ago. She does nothing to elevate the women's division. She does nothing to make the division better. Liv Morgan beat her. Didn't really do much to elevate Liv Morgan. She's been at the same spot she's been in for God knows how long.
Yeah, she fell from the main event spot to now teaming with Raquel.
Yeah. And, she was supposed to have a heel turn last year and never ended up happening. But Ronda Rousey, apparently, from what I know, Dana White made her an offer to return to UFC for an undisclosed amount of money. Obviously, it was a big check because apparently that's where she's going, back to UFC. Good fucking riddance. Get the fuck out of WWE. Because overall, once you're off of television, the show's going to be just a little bit better than it was before you left.
Honestly, like, I feel like, her time has ran out. Timing is everything in pro wrestling. And when she first came to WWE, it was pretty good, I think. Going into WrestleMania, main eventing with Charlotte and Becky.
When she tag teamed with The Rock against Stephanie and Triple H.
Like, she had a great first run, but I think that this run has been a little bit lackluster. Nobody has really, been looking forward to it because she was, a main attraction. And, she kind of lost that, momentum. And I think, if there's a time for her to go to the UFC and get that bag, it's right now, because she is known for being one of the baddest, women on the planet. And, she hasn't been in an octagon in so long. So for her to go back there, I think that would be a huge, moneymaker for not only UFC, but for her as well. And I gotta say, Shayna Baszler, I wasn't really a fan of her work in NXT. I always knew she was fantastic. I, haven't really been enjoying her run, but I gotta say, Monday Night Raw, she finally sold me. The way she cut that promo was fantastic, and that's what it all came down to. I just never really enjoyed her microphone work. Like, on NXT, like, I felt like something was missing there with, like, her promo work. Same with, the main roster. But on Raw, the way she delivered that promo, that's the Shayna Baszler I've been waiting for. And now I'm really behind her, and I really hope they just let her be herself, because it seemed like in that promo, she was being genuine. She was, not saying any lies, and it was very passionate. It came from the heart. Loved it.
We need Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey in a fight pit match. I mean, they're both veterans in UFC, bro. Throw these two women in a fucking cage and let them fucking fight.
So here's the funny thing about that. That's like the first thing I said when I saw Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler going at it. Fight pit match, give it to us.
Bro, I've been saying this since last year. I said it on one of our prediction videos, like, we need to get Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey in a fight pit match.
Hey, if there's a time to do it, SummerSlam, that'd be perfect.
I mean, bro, they're both UFC veterans. Spend a lot of time in the UFC. Throw these two women in the cage and just let them fight. That's what you got to do.
And have Ronda put Shayna over. But I gotta say, Hitman, great comment of the week. Moving on now to another We Are Wrestling Maniac at Lady Jax. She commented this: I'm beginning to think that they are setting up for Finn to leave the Judgment Day. I could see him and Damian Priest as one of the matches at SummerSlam. I agree. I don't think that Priest is going to be cashing in on anyone anytime soon. I think that they're going to be focusing on the feud developing between him and Finn. And this
I agree
was,
with that.
I believe, on one of my reactions this past Monday.
What's this person's name?
At Lady Jax. I
can sort of tell she's a Nia Jax fan. I definitely agree. I do think they're gonna withhold Damian Priest cash in, and he's gonna continue to develop this issue with Finn or whatever. Obviously, we saw this past Monday, Dominic was telling Priest, cash in, go, go for it. And then Finn Balor came in and attacked Seth Rollins, and Rollins backed up into Damian. Damian knocked him off the ring apron, and it just it's starting to escalate more and more between them. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else transpires.
I gotta say, that was a fantastic ending for Raw, because it left a lot of questions going into next week, and that's something that Raw hasn't really had in years. So I think, them building the shows around the Judgment Day and Seth Rollins is absolutely brilliant, and both Raw and SmackDown lately, to me, has been must-watch TV, I think.
I feel like they need to, because the Bloodline, that story is only on SmackDown, and they don't necessarily talk about it or, do stuff every single week, because Roman does have times where he spends a couple weeks off TV or whatever. But I feel like they need to make Judgment Day just as exciting and heart racing and, cinematic and beautiful just as the Bloodline. That way they can have two massive stories within WWE that people can really get invested in, and it'll help the 3 hours of fucking Monday Night Raw, because that show is fucking god awful most weeks. It'll make the show just a little bit more better. So the amount of time that they're concentrating on the Bloodline, they need to put the same amount of concentration and time into Judgment Day, because there's a lot of story there you can tell.
I definitely agree, and they're all very hot right now in the group. Like, they're all succeeding on their own, but like having them together, it adds more to that. But honestly, like, I don't see them facing each other off at SummerSlam. I think that's a little too soon. Maybe Payback. That could be one of their big matches going.
I feel like either Damian or Finn are gonna have a one-on-one match at SummerSlam, and I feel like Damian has a match, Finn screws him. If Finn has a match, Damian screws him. Or not intentional, but it's sort of like it's intentional, but it's not supposed to be, and it leads to a further feud, and then at Payback they might have a one-on-one match. And then also, that's a way to prolong the eventual cash-in for Damian.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that they can do this. They could even have Finn Balor versus Rollins again at SummerSlam, but this time maybe have Finn Balor win, so it really adds more into this, like, will Damian cash in on his brother? And then when you do the Judgment Day turn, Damian cashes in then. There's a lot of things that can happen, but honestly, got to agree with you, Lady Jax, on that 100%. But now our last comment of the week is from David Mayfield 9834, and he commented this on the MJF, homecoming vlog, and said this: I love Leo Sparrow. He should have won. Had he used the chair, he would have. Such a wonderful heel. Go Leo Sparrow. So that was the guy that faced MJF in, during that show.
Yeah, I was gonna end up going to that show, but I didn't. So I'm not quite familiar with who this guy is. But I mean, you got the bookers of that show had to have a lot of faith in you and your abilities to put you in a match with somebody of the caliber of MJF. They wouldn't just throw anybody in there. You know what I mean? So, and
like being there live, I could speak more on this. Leo Sparrow, I never really heard of him until I went to, Create a Pro Homecoming. This is the first time, I went to a Create a Pro show, and man, Leo Sparrow, he really impressed me. I love the character work. Love that he comes out because, like, pretty much, like, his whole thing is he's, a vegan, and pretty much, like, comes out with, like, cabbage, and, like, he was, like, throwing this, like, lettuce in, like, people's faces coming out, and it was just brilliant. It was great heat, and MJF getting that massive homecoming pop.
Reminds me of Simon Dean.
And it was great.
Reminds me of Simon Dean when he would come out with the workout supplements and stuff.
And then he's like the son. He's like the son of, like, the rising sun or something like that. He has a really cool character. Somebody I definitely recommend, like, all the Maniacs to look out for, and just, do some research, because Leo Sparrow is a fantastic worker.
Hopefully we can get him at Blitzkrieg at some point.
Hopefully, man.
That'd be pretty
But
wild.
congratulations to all 4 We Are Wrestling Maniacs on the comment of the week. All you have to do, if you're a listener, if you're a watcher, is go to the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel and comment on any of the videos. That is how you enter to become Comment of the Week. But now, moving on to our next topic, we have an AEW one. Speaking of AEW, Collision. The ratings have dropped for the 3rd straight week in a row. Episode 1 drew 816,000 viewers. Episode 2 drew 595,000 viewers. And last Saturday drew 452,000 viewers. Should AEW be concerned?
I don't necessarily think so. I mean, those are still great ratings, especially on the day of, WWE PLE that was earlier on in the day. And you have to remember, like, you have to take into account like all the people that don't have cable and that watch on streaming services, or they DVR it and watch the next day, or watch YouTube TV. Like that stuff, the ratings don't count those in the ratings. It's for cable only. How many homes nowadays still have actual full on cable besides like older people and people
Like
that
Vince
don't have.
Russo and Disco Inferno.
Exactly. But I think 300 some thousand on a Saturday night in the middle of summer, the day of a huge, massive WWE PLE with, stuff like that happens. Like I watched it, but I didn't watch it until the next day. And like I said, I watch on the stream, so my ratings and my viewership or whatever doesn't necessarily count. So it's something that they need to necessarily be worried about. I definitely think the ratings are gonna spike, especially like, the colder it gets outside and people are more home, on a Saturday night during winter because it's not the fucking dew. So I do think, the summer is gonna be a little bit harsh, but once like the colder weather picks up, the ratings will start, because what else is there to watch on a fucking Saturday night? Nothing. Law and Order reruns.
Yeah, and that's the thing. For this episode of Collision, it had 2,000 more viewers than Rampage this past week.
Plus, it was taped. It wasn't even live. They taped it on Thursday, so it wasn't even a live episode of Collision.
Yeah, so here's the thing about, Collision that, I gotta say about it. I definitely, I'm enjoying Collision. I am. Like, I watch it, Sundays. I DVR it. Not gonna, spend my Saturday night watching wrestling unless it's like a premiere live event. And I feel like, with Collision, being on even after, the whole, Money in the Bank pay-per-view, definitely, took a lot of the ratings because a lot of people were probably, they had a great premiere live event. WWE did a fantastic job. And a lot of, casual fans, a lot of, fans in general are probably just not going to want to sit through more wrestling, an additional 2 hours. And even Eric Bischoff on his podcast didn't even blast AEW for the ratings. He even said, I knew this was going to happen with, we knew it was going to be like a low rating this week. And that's something I feel like AEW is not worried about. They know better when it comes down to it, because with these premiere live events that take place on Saturdays, it is going to affect the ratings for Collision. But we're going to have to wait and see with the rating for tonight's episode. I do think we need more storylines on the show. The only storyline I could really think of is Jay White, CM Punk. They're starting that, and Andrade in the House of Black.
Yeah.
And I think one thing they need to do here, because I think I know where you're going to get into. One thing they do need to do is make certain wrestlers on Dynamite permanently on Dynamite, and make some people permanent on Collision. They need to have that, I think, brand split, because I think that's how you're going to draw more ratings to either product. Because even Malachi stated it as well, saying like he permanently, wants to be on Saturdays because he wants them to be like, oh, I get to see the House of Black.
Oh, exactly. That's the way it should be. I heard that there's potential for Ricky Starks to get joined or get paired with Bullet Club Gold. So we could be seeing that. But there's a lot we're probably gonna be seeing on Saturdays, man. And like I said, during the summer it's gonna be really hard. I mean, if WWE had, just a random 2-hour show on Saturday nights, ratings wouldn't be that great either.
That's why you don't get main event every Saturday.
So
anymore.
But once late October, early November, and Thanksgiving rolls around, and it's winter, nobody wants to go out in the fucking snow, and what is there to do? Go to the grocery store? There's nothing to do there in the winter. You know what I mean? Go sledding maybe. But I do feel like once the winter months start hitting, the ratings are gonna start spiking. At least
not WrestleMania season.
At least in the East Coast.
Yeah,
I'm wondering. I'm wondering what they're gonna do. Didn't mean to cut you off. I'm wondering what they're gonna do with Collision during WrestleMania weekend, because I don't think they're gonna have it during WrestleMania night 1, because nobody's gonna watch it.
Yeah, here's the thing about that. I don't think a lot of these wrestlers are even going to want to wrestle on that episode of Collision because WrestleMania Access Week. So, like, you're going to have these WrestleCons where a lot of independent wrestlers, a lot of, wrestlers that, are under contract with Impact Wrestling or MLW or New Japan or even AEW, they make a very big payday during WrestleCon. And that's something that I would be worried if I'm AEW, because there are going to be some, guys on that roster that are going to say, why do I want to wrestle on this episode of Collision when I can go to WrestleCon and I can make probably quadruple that money that I could have made, that I'm not going to be able to make during the year? Because you have to realize all these international fans, they come out for WrestleMania. So a lot of these, performers, they want to get a table at WrestleCon and, get a huge opportunity.
Unless they do AW Collision that Thursday, because Friday Ring of Honor every year Ring of Honor has like a huge pay-per-view as well. So on Thursday they do AEW Collision, Friday they do the Ring of Honor show, and then obviously, the rest of whatever the fuck they do during, WrestleMania weekend. So I could see them doing that.
Probably the best way for them to do that, honestly. But I gotta say, with, Collision, I think once we get that solid brand split in AEW where there's more structure involved, then more people will tune into one or the other, and it'll make things very interesting between the two. Because there's some, guys that are CM Punk fans that are watching Collision because of CM Punk. They're not going to probably watch Dynamite because Punk's not on there. There's just certain people that you like. There's certain people that you don't like. And I think, Collision, I've already seen a lot of, promises here. Ethan Page cut probably the best promo in his AEW run so far on Collision. Ricky Starks looked more like a star on Collision than his whole feud with Chris Jericho. There's a lot of things that, I'm starting to see that are different with Collision and Dynamite. I just feel like they need to, have that, brand split between the two.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know CM Punk's got a red bag he's been carrying around too. And just saying, if they wanted to do a brand split, it does kind of make sense for, him to reveal that as the world championship, only because he never lost it. So it wouldn't be like a random championship appearing. It would actually make some sense.
Exactly.
But yeah, we're definitely going to have to wait and see what happens with the ratings. I wouldn't be worried at all about it.
I wouldn't be.
Moving on now to our last topic before we dive into the main event topic for this week's episode of the podcast. Recently on Chris Van Vliet's podcast, Insight, he interviewed Dave Meltzer. And he, was asking him about the whole Kurt Angle, the whole, why Angle has never gotten a 5-star rating. And Meltzer said this: yeah, but he's had tones of 4 3/4, which is basically the same thing. Anything over 4 is great. Could you say the Chris Benoit match at the Royal Rumble was 5-star match? It was pretty damn close. 5 stars to me. That's like elite level, Meltzer stated. Meltzer also appeared to play down the importance of his own 5-star ratings with Van Vliet, explaining that the ratings represent a big benchmark for many people. In response, Meltzer stated, well, it shouldn't be, because if you're a 4 3/4, that means I'm thinking you should be considered for match of the year. Meltzer is also awarded 3 such 4.75 ratings to matches featuring Kurt Angle: the Royal Rumble match with Benoit, WrestleMania 21 against Shawn Michaels, and a tag match from No Mercy 2002 pitting Angle and Benoit against Edge and Rey Mysterio. what are your thoughts on Meltzer's whole rating system? And I feel like this is why I want to talk about this on the podcast, is because I feel like we continue to stress out about this man that has an opinion like we do. And I feel like what better way to put the whole Dave Meltzer rating thing to rest than now when he did this interview with Chris Van Vliet this past Tuesday?
I feel, and I did watch the interview. I didn't watch all of it, but I did. I watched a huge chunk of it the other day. I think people look too much into the ratings and the score of matches. It's just like rating movies or rating video games or, rating songs or albums or music, whatever it is. It's not the gospel, man. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody could think, a match is a 7-star classic and it's the greatest match they've ever seen. Somebody else could be like, it was all right. People read too much into the rating scores nowadays instead of coming up with their own opinion for themselves, instead of listening to some guy's opinion about it, because his opinion is not the gospel. His opinion is not going to be the same as mine, the same as yours. There's a lot of matches that I think suck that people are like is one of the greatest matches ever. You know what I mean? So,
It's
same
like
from
it's like what I was saying earlier about everybody just having their own vision of something, and everybody's vision to something that they, proceed to watch is totally different. Like the Super Mario's movie. I could have thought that it was a 5-star. While you, on the other hand, could have thought it was, maybe a 3.5. Everybody views things completely different.
yeah. Um, Especially because I'm not into those kind of movies or whatever. So you might have really loved it, and I would have been like, sorry, it was a good kids movie. Something I would watch with the kids once in a while. It's not something that I would ever think about or ever want to see like by myself. So people look too much into shit, man. Watch a match, come up with your own conclusion. As long as you think it's great, that's the only thing that matters.
So I've been, probably out of the big three here on, We Are Wrestling. I've been the one to express my opinion about Dave Meltzer the most. And I don't know why his, views on pro wrestling pisses me off. I really don't know why. But after listening to most of this interview, I gotta say, at the end of the day, he does make a valid point. Like, he has an opinion just like we all do. But his opinion, people look at it because of all the years he's been in the pro wrestling business as, a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
And, it has become a big thing. Like with AEW, there's even people that say, oh, Dave Meltzer, they pay him to, give them good ratings, this and that, which part of me believes that a little bit, but another part of me just really doesn't give a shit. And I lean more towards that. At the end of the day, it's, a rating that shouldn't matter. And I feel like a lot of wrestlers, I don't like that they care more about a Dave Meltzer rating than doing the little things in the business, like character development and, going out there and telling a story. They care more about doing the crazy spots for, a holy shit chant that a lot of people aren't going to be thinking about a few months from now. And, my issue for a while, I thought it was Dave Meltzer, but I gotta say, I was wrong. And, I can admit that I was absolutely wrong. My problem is the IWC. I have finally come to realization here because at the end of the day, everybody should be able to form their own opinion. And a lot of these people that, follow Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer newsletter, they, listen to Dave Meltzer and then they make their opinion. And I can't blame Dave Meltzer for doing that because at the end of the day, we have our own wrestling podcast. We give our thoughts, we give our takes, whether, you guys like it or not. We still, have an opinion that might be different. And Dave Meltzer, is also, a wrestling, mind who has, different opinions about things. It's just, I always say this. If you're, watching something, if you're, a pro wrestling fan, which I'm assuming you are because you're listening or watching this, form your own opinion. Who cares what a star rating is? Who cares what, Meltzer says? Who cares what Cornette says? Who cares what Russo says? You can, enjoy what they do, but at least form your own opinion. And I feel like the reason why Meltzer gets all of this, negative attention is because of the IWC, and they hold him to a very high standard, which, like my opinion about Kurt Angle, I feel like he's had more than freaking he's had more than 16 5-star matches, because Will Ospreay, has gotten 16 5-star matches from Meltzer. I feel like Angle's had more of that, but that's my view on it. Meltzer's view is, different. And at
Meltzer also talked about the kind of wrestling style that he enjoys more than other. You know what I mean?
exactly. And at the end of the day, we all view this sport that we love different. And that's why, I got to apologize for all the slander that I've done on here to Dave Meltzer. Even though you are a pain in the ass with some of the news that you come out with, it is the most accurate news out of, a lot of these reporters. It's just the whole 5-star thing. I know he's just doing his job. It's just annoying how these wrestling fans, use that as like a way to like say, oh, we're better than you. Our opinion's better than you. We should all be able to have our own opinion.
Yep.
And that's the thing I love about the We Are Wrestling podcast. You, myself, and Ben, we all have different views on this sport, and we come on here, we talk about it. There's things we agree on. There's also things we disagree on. But we create these conversations, and that's the best thing about this is we're growing a pretty cool community.
Absolutely, man.
But before we get into our main event topic for this week's episode, we'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling 64.
Yo, monkeys. We are Wrestling Podcast, and you're not. Bang!
One thing We Are Wrestling recommends you to do is support your local independent promotions. They are the stars of tomorrow. And you never know, sometimes when you go to these shows that might only have 10 to 30 people, you could be seeing the next future WWE champion, maybe even the next AEW star. And through the years, I've always been a huge advocate to supporting independent wrestling. And you can't go wrong. It's a cheap night out, you get a good time with the family, and you get to watch some good old wrestling. Independent wrestling, that's where usually a young professional wrestler starts their career. And having these opportunities to perform in front of crowds is a great way to get exposure to where they will eventually be on your television screen watching them every week. We recommend you guys to support indie wrestling. We're back, and our main event topic for this week's episode of the podcast, at Money in the Bank, John Cena made a surprise one-off appearance and teased a potential future WrestleMania taking place in the UK. How do you feel about a potential WrestleMania taking place over there?
I would enjoy it. I do think that, I mean, obviously we saw it at Money in the Bank. The UK, there's nothing like, I feel like Canada and the UK are like the best crowds to perform in front of. And maybe Chicago if you're in the US.
Oh, I wouldn't forget Japan either.
Japan too. Japan, they're a little bit different though. Like New Japan, like the crowds aren't necessarily able to cheer. Like they look down on crowds really like making noise like that. So it's completely different. But the UK and Canada and in the US, Chicago, like those are like the best crowds I feel like to perform in front of. So I do think WrestleMania over there it would definitely be a game changer, But I've said this, and Ben got a little bit upset at me for it, and it's my opinion, and it's a very valid opinion. Why'd they wait till now? Ironically enough, in 7 weeks, AEW's taken over Wembley Stadium, selling 75,000 tickets, to All In too. Ironically enough, now WWE wants to, they sent John Cena out there as a spokesperson to, get the crowd riled up about a possible WrestleMania in a couple years. And, you know, I can't help but to think that they're doing this in spite of AEW because they're seeing AEW is going to be having a very successful event and they want to one up them by having WrestleMania over there. I mean, you can't really blame me for having that kind of mindset. They've had the resources for years to do a WrestleMania in the UK and they've never wanted to. All of a sudden now, 7 weeks away from All In 2, now they want to potentially have a WrestleMania over there. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me.
See, I get where you're coming from, but one thing, about Triple H's run so far has been, doing more premier live events outside of the US. And I think they've seen how successful AEW, New Japan, Forbidden Doors have been. And they're starting to see, the outside market outside the US is very important. And they've put on some great premier live events. The last 3 were outside of the United States. We had Backlash in Puerto Rico. We had Night of Champions in Saudi. And we also had, Money in the Bank in the UK. And they were fantastic crowds, great shows overall. And I think both AEW and WWE, they take things from each other, I think, because that's just the name of the game. It's like Apple and Samsung. They both, have phones. They both have tablets, different things like that. And to make their products better, they do, get inspired or copy their competitor to one up them. And it's very normal in, all of sports, very normal in the pro wrestling business. WWE wouldn't have beat WCW in the Monday Night Wars if, WWE decided not to change that whole cartoon thing they were doing. WCW took, a reality route. And that's why, the NWO, it took off and became a main attraction. And that's when, we got the Attitude Era, your favorite era of wrestling and a lot of people's favorites with Stone Cold, DX, The Rock, Jericho, all of those fantastic
Undertaker, Kane.
And that's the thing about, WWE and AEW. I'm sick of the whole war thing that a lot of people are trying to create because the Monday Night Wars, nothing will ever be as good as that. And a lot of people, they try to recreate it, even with, TNA and WWE in 2010 when Hogan and Bischoff joined, Dixie. They tried making a whole war. And at the end of the day, I understand why, because that's like what people want. But here's the thing, AEW, they started doing the press conference stuff, the media scrums after the shows, and WWE started doing it as well recently. But are we complaining about it?
No.
I'm not either, because here's the thing. I think the media scrums overall, they make pro wrestling better because we get more of an inside look at these.
I do feel like,
and we even, get to, create some storylines out of it. And it also gives, the media in, the IWC an opportunity, to get some insight.
I do feel like the media scrums for AEW are a little bit more authentic than the ones in WWE. I do feel like the WWE press conferences are a little bit staged.
Well, yeah, no, of course. But the fact that they're doing them, they were inspired by AEW. And I think WWE, they're definitely looking at, the whole All In thing. I will say that about your take there. Of course they are, because Wembley Stadium, the last time WWE did a show there was SummerSlam 1992. And it was a huge success. But they never, went back there. And seeing AEW sell over 70,000 tickets in the short period of time without even announcing a match. That shows you the market over there is very hot. And WWE, going to be honest with you, they would be fucking stupid not to have a WrestleMania at Wembley. But I think that shouldn't take away from AEW with All In.
Yeah. But you also got to remember, WrestleMania, it'd be weird watching WrestleMania at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
That would be, but here's the thing. It would be a huge moment because in the UK, I know all of them passionate, diehard fans, they deserve to have one. They really do.
Yep.
And honestly, I wouldn't complain at all. I think
I hate
Wembley,
these.
it would be cool to see them do it, but so wait, would it be Wembley that they would do it, or is there like another like big stadium in that place?
I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest
Because
with you.
WWE, like, if they go to Wembley, then I can see the comparisons there. But if they do go to a different stadium, then like I kind of like you can't really compare the two. Like
I will I've heard a lot of people online say that it'd be very hard for WWE to hold a WrestleMania over there because around April and around the time of WrestleMania, there's like a some kind of sport that's really massive over in the UK. And they wouldn't be able to hold it at the stadium. I don't know if that's Wembley or somewhere else. I'm not quite sure. So I do know it'd be very difficult.
It's definitely going to be very difficult. But I do feel like WWE, they do deserve to have a WrestleMania there. And I'm looking at it from like the business side of pro wrestling and sports entertainment. Whatever's better for the product and continues to keep this momentum, because right now wrestling is very hot right now.
Yeah.
That's all I care about at the end of the day. And there's things that AEW even, takes from WWE as well to better themselves. And that's just the name of the game. Every competitor out there does it. PlayStation and Xbox, Apple and Samsung. They all do it. And I think everybody's trying to make a war where there isn't really a war. But I think overall, WrestleMania in the UK, I think we shouldn't be comparing that to AEW. But I understand why, like what you're looking at it from. I totally understand your point of view. But I do think that they just need to focus on doing what's best for them and moving forward. Like AEW, they shouldn't be focusing on WWE right now. They need to be focusing on All In. WWE, on the other hand, they need to be focusing on SummerSlam coming up because we have a stacked card coming up. And overall, I would love to see a WrestleMania down the line, but we know that's not going to be for another couple of years because, of course, they do the bidding stuff. I believe next year it's going to be in Minnesota. And I think the year after, right now, there's a bidding war going on. And it potentially could be WrestleMania 42 that could be taking place in the UK.
We're going to have to wait and see, man. But this was a great way to end the episode this week, man. We're going to have to wait and see. In 7 weeks, man, we have a massive, historic AEW show that's going to be a can't miss. We have SummerSlam. As pro wrestling fans, bro, we are fucking spoiled rotten.
That's what I'm saying, man. And this summer, on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel, we have lots of awesome content coming your way. We're also going to be announcing, the shirts where you guys can end up, buying a We Are Wrestling Attitude shirt in just a few weeks. But guys, let us know in the comment section below your thoughts on all the topics that we covered on this week. If you're a listener, we appreciate you guys listening to the entire podcast. Download us, give us a 5-star review. Not only a review, a best one review, but if you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the We Are Wrestling podcast, make sure to smash that like button now. If you're not a We Are Wrestling maniac yet already, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, because next week, Ben and a special guest will be covering the news for We Are Wrestling 65. And we also got some pretty awesome content coming your way on the We Are Wrestling channel. A couple vlogs you can expect, and Danny going live for, Monday Night Raw, AEW, and even SmackDown. All the links down in the YouTube descriptions below. You can go follow Danny and myself on our social medias and other YouTube pages. All that down below. Danny, he's posting music reactions. I'm posting basketball content right now for NBA free agency. We got lots of awesome things coming out. Links down below. In addition, you want shorter clips of the podcast? You can't sit through, 2 hours of us talking about some wrestling. We got additional content on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. All the links down below. And of course, to all the We Are Wrestling maniacs out there worldwide, we are taking over. Peace.